www.youtube.com/TAPKAC, or the artist presently known as Chris. Chris is Hungry, a show involving cooking and other things. Episode 11, second half, Vegetable and Fruit Smoothie, also known as Drink Your Salad. To see the full episode, please start from episode 11, first half. All material, including music, art monologues, and other artwork, by Christopher D. Hampton at Facebook, tapcac@gmail.com. Hi folks, I'm Chris, and this is the second portion of episode 11 of Chris is Hungry, where I'm making something that's actually good for you. It has nothing. The only ingredients are, let's see, oranges and spinach and carrots and strawberries and apples and some grapes and other things that are actually good for you, and no unpronounceable ingredients, no unidentifiable ingredients, just those things. So let's see how this turned out. Yeah, it looks like green mud. Boy, does it look like green mud. It even has a texture of probably algae, but it's good for you. So maybe a straw will be better. Anyway, I mentioned in the last segment that about being like an arrow, and excuse me. What I meant by being like an arrow is that I have my daily routine. I get up in the morning, I go to work, I go home, I do my whatever it is I do when I get home, which is maybe pound a few beers, watch some things on YouTube, watch some maybe a movie, or get online, and sometimes I don't pound a few beers, but anyway, after a while, and and also from time to time see some friends of mine, and the point is, there is a basic routine, and but it's like I said, when I talk about like an arrow, it's like you put an arrow into a bow and you slowly pull it back, and this is your daily routine of being pulled back and 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 pulled back, until finally into the stratosphere, and you go out and actually do something, because you feel like you're in a rut, and or possibly like a hamster on a wheel going, and it's like, is this it? This can't be it. I need something. I need more than this. And in 1995, for a year, I had finally been transferred into the warehouse, from the warehouse into the office of the place where I worked. And I was wearing three-piece suits every day, and I had my desk, and I had a computer, and I had a phone, and there were all sorts of things that I had to do, not just process the orders of taking a look at this order number, blah 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 blah. It was sent by this method. It cost this much to send it by that. This is what we sent. This is what we didn't send. This is the serial numbers of some of the things we sent, and etc. So on and so forth. And then I would go back home. And for 3 months out of the year, well, it was my parents' house, but for 3 months they would go away, and so that was my place, so to speak. It was basically, I was living in quite literally a castle, well, on the top of the mountain. I want to say castle in the sky, but more like top of the mountain, where I could watch fireworks displays on 4th of July, over, let's see, one over Alcatraz by San Francisco, one by the San Francisco side of the Bay Bridge, one over Oakland, one over Berkeley, one over Richmond, one over, Vallejo. Now that's, let's see, San Francisco County, Alameda County, and Sonoma County, and Contra Costa County as well. Well, that's 4 different counties, plus I'm living in Marin County, so yeah. So, yeah, go to work, go home, and I have this, basically I have achieved, what I thought was all there was to life, and it's like, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more than just, showing up and, doing your thing and going home and doing whatever. And so, yeah, I got in that rut. It's like, I got to get out of here. I got to get off this, hamster wheel. And so I decided to go for a trip all through the Southwest and possibly beyond, if beyond was open up to me yet. And so I bought myself a backpack, one of those big old backpacks that go from your behind out to about here. And let's see, the inside the survival pack, along with the clothes, there was also a first aid kit, and it also had those emergency blankets where the silver side was kind of thermal, so it would trap into your body heat and reflect it back to you. And on the other side of the blanket it was orange, so that way you could use it as an emergency thing for anybody who's flying overhead to say, hey, there's somebody who needs help or whatever. Along with that, I also got this base here. Now, I was looking for one of those acoustic bases where or it works as like an acoustic guitar, or you could plug it in, and lo and behold, the music store has one of these things, and like I said, you could either plug it in or you could use the speaker just as well. Anyway, so thank you. Anyway, so I got this along with, and it comes with its own case, and being kind of small, it has a small case. I'll get more into that later. I also got a few of these things, well, jumpsuit things that later, well, hey, if you want to dress up like Jason for Halloween, all you need is one of these, a hockey mask, and one of these. This, by the way, is a family heirloom. Well, says who? Says me. Anyway, so I got that, and I got all that, and I got myself a trip to Las Vegas. And before I went there, I dyed my hair. Oddly, there was a hair dye color that was even blacker than this thing. There actually was a thing called unnaturally black, and that's what I had. And kind of funny, months later, when my hair would start growing out, and I would get cut my hair out. Instead of having a frost where people have dark hair, but kind of like a white frost on top, I would have the reverse of that. My hair would be this color, but with black tips. So I go to Vegas, and my first 2 nights are at the Luxor. It was the Luxor is that big black pyramid with a light on top that's bright enough to be seen from space. Allegedly. I think they were just getting off the ground, or just maybe just starting to get onto something, because when it came to the breakfast buffet, I got there 15 minutes before they even opened, and the food was already cold. And well, after I finished, well, they don't call them elevators, but they have these things that work the same thing as it, because it's diagonal as opposed to up and down. And yeah, but if you want to get to a certain floor, you have to go to the proper one. And yeah, I had to hold back a puke to you know, all the way to, you know, my room where you know. Anyway, yeah, I had 2 bedrooms, no, 2 beds, and a stand-up shower and 2 sinks for some reason. And yeah, so after that, I, you know, walked down a bit and I meet my cousins. This particular cousin had actually gotten married in Vegas many years before, and we go to the Circus buffet, and which is, even on the travel books, it says it's the best one to look for. And they drive me to the classic Vegas, the one you see in movies during the 70s and 80s, if not even earlier, where the Nugget is there, and there's that, you see that you know, neon sign of the cowboy guy and kind of going like this, which by the way is a strip club. And being that it's 1995, that ceiling that's gone over the classic strip, that nowadays has a light show going on, and there's a little flint and blades going, you know, that was still in the process of being built. There was just a roof over it, that's it. And Friday, in the room that I got at the hotel over there, I want to say the Lucky Queen or Lucky something, or anyway, there I had 2 rooms. I don't know, I didn't really need a second room, but there was a spare room anyway, and that had a jacuzzi bathtub, and it was a lot cheaper than the place where I stayed before. Anyway, Friday I finally, you know, okay, Vegas is over, and I get on the bus and I go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and see all the sights, and well, you know, out of the bus window. And Arizona has its picturesque areas, but along the I-40, as I mentioned in a different video, no it doesn't. Well, just along the I-40. Suddenly the state line is like day and night, because you go from, it's like going from black and white to suddenly, you know, New Mexico, Technicolor, and it's, you know, the ground is different, the color of the ground is different, the topography is different, the messes, and everything else, and, you know, whoa. And finally get to Albuquerque, and it's about somewhere between 5:15 and 5:30, and you know, I'm, you know, having gotten a little bit of sleep, you know, next to the bus window going, you know, so I'm kind of, you know, I get to one hotel, and you know, a cheap motel, and the door doesn't lock, and so he says, well, yeah, you can have your money back for you know, $5 less than what you already paid, and whatever, dude. I walked into I go to the hotel across the street, and they say, yeah, we got a room, and it's 5:45, and so I get some sleep, and yeah, and about 11 o'clock, and it's about 5 hours, well, 5 hours and 15 minutes later, and you know, there's a key, you know, going, you know, you would never think much of a house key, you know, making that much noise, but it's actually that effective. And he says, well, hey, it's 11. I said, look, it's only 11 o'clock. I only check out at 5:45. He said, and apparently the policy is that anytime before 6 a.m. is considered the previous day. So if I want to sleep for more than 5 hours and 15 minutes, then I have to pay for another day. Whatever, pal. So I get out and I walk toward the freeway, and I go to the freeway entrance, and I got my backpack, and okay, remember the base, and I remember the small case. Okay, now the base with the case actually fit inside the backpack with everything else, but after a while I decided to say, how about I'm not carrying that much weight, and I'll just carry this, you know, on my hand with the backpack. Because the case of being too small, I'm wondering if some people thought, you know, if there was one car that actually pulled over, and the second I picked up my stuff, they probably saw the small case and it's like, oh no, he's got a gun! Ah! Never mind. You know, I eventually get a ride to another part of Albuquerque, and And you know, there's a freeway, and then there's that parallel road. So I'll try to thumb a ride and sit there for about 15 minutes, and nothing happens. So I'll walk down the parallel road, and next exit, 15 minutes, nope. Walk a little further. Now all this time, the sun seems like it's about like right here above my head, and I'm baking, and I find myself at a convenience store, and I get myself a large soda, guzzle it down, and it's only recently that it occurred to me that I probably should have gotten one of those slushy ice things, and just dumped it on my head to freeze my scalp more or less, even if it would make my hair all sticky, but whatever. Finally, I got a ride from somebody who didn't ask for any money, didn't ask for, didn't try to get friendly or anything, and which is, all the way to Santa Fe. And by the way, hitchhiking is dangerous. So one thing I did was I had a ballpoint pen that I kept in my sock. That so in case anything like that, in case anything ugly started to happen, I wouldn't not necessarily kill or anything, but at least have something to wound and buy a few minutes to run, And anyway, so at least I had access to something in case something bad were to happen. Theoretically speaking, this would work, just like. But then, theoretically speaking, wood is supposed to be useless, because if you look at wood underneath a microscope, you'll find that there's more space than mass. So if there's more space than mass, then how is a wooden anything of any worth whatsoever? Theoretically speaking. So, fortunately, I didn't have to go and have to endure any, finding the reality of a theoretical situation. The guy gave me a ride all the way to Santa Fe. Everything was perfectly free, and one thing I found really weird is that I went to 2 different hotels, and I would ask how much is a room, and instead of saying like $50 a night or $75 a night, then they would be like, and they would just take a piece of paper. Why can't you just tell me the price? Finally, somebody told me that, I think it was at the second hotel, he said, well, there's a hostel down the street, and you might want to check there. Now, I mentioned hostel in the previous segment. Now, one thing about hostels, there's the International Hostel Foundation, and that's where people from all over the world, they have like, houses and rooms and bunk beds and side rooms, or possibly even private rooms. And pick a country, there's either somebody who's been to that country or is from that country, because they're all just traveling through and looking for the cheapest way possible to travel. And so there's people from all over Europe, there's people from all over Australia, and even Tasmania, and there's the Philippines, and there's the Middle East, and there's the plain old ordinary East, and there's Scandinavia, and so anyway, like I said, pick a country, there's probably somebody from there. And another thing about that is people from outside the States, boy, they drink. They must have second livers, because at one point we had the picnic table, and there was we pretty much had a Studio 54 nightclub style bar right there on the table, with almost any kind of poison you could possibly think of. And so trying to keep up and socialize and everything else, and I'm going along with this. One thing about the weather in New Mexico is that, remember when I was talking about the sun being right here? Yeah, well, pretend this is the horizon, pretend this is the sun. Once that sun gets boop, that's when you have to dress for Siberian winter. Yeah, and I had to excuse myself at one point, and actually put on like about an extra pair of socks, And I also had to put my thermals under my jeans. I had a t-shirt. I had a sweater. I had, and of course that Friday the 13th thing that I showed you earlier, along with a trench coat. And it was still more than just a wee bit on the chilly side, if you take my meaning. So I managed to score a ride to Flagstaff, Arizona from from this guy from Sweden and this other guy who was on some kind of bender. He had been traveling for about 2 weeks, and he was either A, in the process of getting drunk, B, drunk, or C, getting drunk. I don't know, maybe there was some kind of family trauma before he started this bender. Anyway, so the next day, while my eyes are bulging out of my head, and my cheeks are puffed up, and my lips are inflated to 45 pounds per square inch of pressure, and my head's going, and looking at the amazing scenery, and listening to the Navajo station, and you can really tell why the Navajo language was used as code during World War II when the military was sending transmissions to each other, so that way code crackers would not be able to crack the code. Very interesting language. We get to Flagstaff, Arizona, and fortunately they do let me have a bed. And there's a certain priority list when it comes to these hostels. If you have a card and you have reservations, bang, you're guaranteed. If they have extra places and you have a card, you're even more guaranteed. If you don't have a card, it's up to them. And that's why in Salt Lake City they didn't take me, because they said, probably took a look at me and said, nope, nope, nope. So fortunately this place did take me in. And I set my stuff on my bunk bed, and or at least the bunk of the bunk bed. That is my part. And I walk outside, and the guy from Sweden has already gone to the liquor store, gotten himself a 12-pack of beer, and he's on like maybe number 3. He's like, go 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 go, go 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 go. And I'm thinking, how can you even look at a beer right now after much less drink one? Like I said, maybe people outside the United States have a second liver. I don't know. Or, well, anyway, so I started feeling a bit alienated because I'm trying to get a nurse over this hangover that I had from the previous night. I don't want to do it again. And it seems that that's the only way to socialize with everybody else. And I go through the same thing at the next hostel, which is just a stone throw away the next day. And finally I get on a bus and back to California. And as I'm on my way to Los Angeles, where I would have to transfer and go back to San Francisco and catch a cab ride back to Marin County. One thing about California is, okay, say this is California, right? And here's the Bay Area, and here's Lake Tahoe. Now, and here's all the ski areas, and somewhere around here is Yosemite. Anyway, most of what you see on TV and movies is along this tiny little strip, like in the coast, and about 50 miles inside the coast. The rest of this is the Lost Barren Wasteland, and especially down here where it's Mad Max. If you've ever seen a Mad Max movie, the original, or Road Warrior, or Beyond Thunderdome, or the new one, Fury Road, that's that's where you are. Not that they shot it there, but you would expect to see Mad Max there. Anyway, or anything out of the movies. So I get back, and well, quite a travel, and maybe not the greatest thing in the world, but at least I got out. At least I got off the hamster wheel, and that's the point. Even if all you have is a car, and you just drive aimlessly for about 3 hours and see the sights, please. It'll give you at least a story to tell. If this is not the greatest story in the world, but at least it's a story. So, thank you very much for listening, and let me perform some music for you. forget to exercise.